I agreed to put my life on camera, and that can't just be the things that benefit me or the things that are easy or the things that are happy. Todd and I had a rough time filming this season. There was a lot going on. When you get to watch yourself back, it's really eye-opening. And I just didn't like who I was in those things. I can't speak for Todd about his feelings or what he wants for himself, but it wasn't a relationship that I felt like I wanted to be, going forward with anymore. I adore Todd, and we've had a beautiful time together, and there's so many wonderful things about him, but there's like a different feeling to the way that we interact with each other. Every week an episode would come out and I would be like, I don't like this person. I don't like the way that this person, myself, I don't like the way that this person talks, and I didn't like how needy I was, and I didn't like how upset I was or how defensive and like just so focused on myself. I think there's always a lot of discussion about Todd and I's relationship, so I'm always wanting to be able to speak for myself about it, and I'm always obviously disappointed when I don't get to, since I'm the closest to what's happening there. And so I try to just be really honest about things are not great. And after we stopped filming, a lot happened last summer in my life. My dad passed, and usually we do a lot of summer travel, and because of my dad's passing, we did not. And I had a very quiet summer at home. And there was these moments with Todd that I just felt like this was what I wanted again. This was the old him and I. He was really there for me and my entire family throughout everything with my dad. And whatever we'd been, struggling with while filming this season kind of seemed to just not exist in the summer. We just really understood each other and were great. And the show started airing in the fall, and it was very difficult to watch those conversations where we had struggled back.
I heard Angie say at one point, I'm not going to be bullied by this. Like, I'm going to stand up for myself. I know you don't care about the details.
At all.
But do I get a high five? Do I get a something for not being in the chaos?
Well, congratulations and thank you. That's what you get.
It was almost like a new school year began. Todd was kind of back at work and I was working and the show was out, and it was almost like this magical summer hadn't happened. We were like kind of right back in some of those problems and right back in some of those things. And then I turned 40 a couple episodes in. And this is such a silly, small thing, but it was my first birthday since my dad had passed, and I was thinking about this conversation he and I'd had 15 years ago. My dad had Alzheimer's and dementia for years before he passed. He didn't always know who I was and wasn't always aware of what was going on. But before that, he and I'd had a very specific conversation. I woke up on my birthday and just felt like the only other person who had been in that conversation that is so meaningful to me, that had guided me through so many things, was gone. And if I wanted anything out of that conversation, I was gonna have to do it for myself. And so I started talking to Todd about maybe changing things, taking a separation, maybe not being together, so that I could figure out how I could get for myself what I wanted. And we went through it quietly. We didn't know what to do. It's a long-term marriage, a long-term relationship, and that unwinds slowly when you have respect for each other, when you don't know what you want. And I don't want to I don't feel sorry for either of us, but I want to be respectful of both of us and what we wanted. And so it was something we talked through for a long time. And I went to BravoCon and did not bring Todd. Again, it was just this pressure point of trying to explain this life that I was living to him when he was not there and he wasn't understanding it. And I felt okay and happy and fine, and there were things for me in the future that I would love for him to be a part of. But it was maybe the first time that I felt like if he wasn't, I was gonna be okay. So we knew a separation was coming, and I thought really carefully about, my want for that was to just say it and rip the Band-Aid off. This is not working, and I want people to leave him alone. He doesn't want to be talked about. Todd's want would be that we never talk about it at all because he doesn't want to be talked about. So the reunion to me was the next time I was going to see the women. And I felt like since they had lived through kind of some of the breakdown of what was going on, and they had maybe lived through a version of me that was more upset or more defensive or harder to get along with, that they deserved that information. It's also my job. I signed up to share my life, and this is going to be a huge part of how my life plays out.
So Todd and I are separated.
Even the day that I sat at the reunion and said that we were separated, Todd's hope, then and even still now is obviously for us to figure out a way together forward. So yeah, when you are figuring something out in your real life, which I put my real life on camera, some days it feels different than it does other days, and the way that I talk about it or way that I express it is different as I, kind of work through it. I don't know what everything is gonna look like. We're figuring it out. We might be the only people in the world who don't have young children who are doing that nesting, but we're doing it for our dogs. Todd is here, I am here. One of us is always here with the dogs. Todd really doesn't have as much in Utah and in Salt Lake as I do. So I probably think he'll spend less time here as we kind of figure things out and settle things down. I've been with Todd a long time. I want to say this a nice way. I'm just going to tell you the honest way. I really care about Todd. That's not something that turns off overnight. I want the very best for him, and the very best for Todd is for us to do this very respectfully and calmly and slowly. And I want very much to be, everyone says this, but I really do want to be best friends with Todd. I think as we've gotten closer to that in the last few weeks, there's a lot more of that old happiness and joy for both of us. There is such a foundation of friendship between the two of us that other things happened and we lost that. And as we kind of unpack what a marriage looks like to us and where each of us goes maybe separately in the future, I think it's easier for us to have that back. Have that respect and that hope for each other, have that, Todd wants to see me do well. He's so excited for me. He knows all the things I'm doing in the next few weeks. He's excited, he wants to be helpful. And there is a big part of me that's super scared. It's tricky to step away from something you've been in for a long time. It was tricky last year to feel like I lost both Todd and my dad at the same time, two people who very differently. Todd's not a replacement for my dad. I know everyone thinks oh, I must have had daddy issues growing up because I married somebody older. I had a lovely, wonderful dad and a great relationship with him. But Todd also was somebody who I bounced a lot of ideas off of and really cared for me. It is very scary to feel like I don't have either sounding board anymore. But also a really wonderful, positive thing for me to kind of do what's best for myself going forward.
You don't see why it goes that way? They all yell. They all call each other dumb bitches.
That's
they all
fine. They can do
scream and
whatever they
yell.
want.
And I don't know how to interact in that scenario.
Leave. Leave with your dignity.
Todd always feels like I am fabulous, which is wonderful, and I appreciate that he's in my corner in that way. And I think he always thinks that I didn't need to do the show or I didn't need to prove to other people who I was or who I am. And I think he really wanted to be there and stand up for me, and it's such an odd dynamic for the husbands, I think, to watch what we go through with the other women on camera or the way that we share our lives and how it resonates with the fans. And I think it just got to be something that kind of, I think Todd really meant to show up for me in a way that was supportive and caring, and he hates the show. I don't think that's a surprise to anyone who's seen it, really hates it, hates the process of it, and strongly dislikes everything that happens, and the swirl of what it feels like when it airs and it films and everybody's in the social media of it, and it's just nothing he has anything to do with. And so I think we just got in this, sometimes when you say the wrong thing and then you're nervous about saying the wrong thing and you just quadruple down and then you trip and fall and then you roll down the hill and you just have to move. I think we kind of got there a little bit with Todd in the show. I think he was trying so hard to stick up for me and be there for me that it brought out a weird dynamic between the two of us, and then we just couldn't seem to figure it out. And of course, obviously, we've been through some really hard times while the show has been filming, and I'm equally so grateful for his support, and so it's been so hard to figure out some of our problems while there are cameras here. I want to be really careful the cameras didn't create those problems. They definitely sometimes captured them.
I would do whatever I needed to do to evolve with you.
It's tricky to talk about. I'm not happy. This is not what I wanted. This is not where I thought we were going. It's not where I hoped for us to be going. But from where we are, I can see wonderful things for both of us. And I think that both of us really want to, I think we want different things going forward for each other, but I would love to go out with Todd and somebody new for him in the future. I would terrorize whoever he dates, and it would just be so funny for me. I'd have all kinds of opinions on it.
I love your costume.
My costume? Ooh,
You can't come to this couch with Mary and I and call it a costume.
Oh, no.
That's fashion, honey.
That's fighting words to Mary and I. This is not a costume.
I mean, my first season, I definitely had less fun because I just felt like I was waiting at every second for something to happen. I didn't know the women as much, and so it felt very different than this season. I think this season I felt much more tucked into the group. There were people that I knew that I could speak with, that I felt like, you know, Whitney and I are the kind of friends where I feel like she does often understand what it is I'm saying, even if I'm not saying it articulately. She kind of understands the intention of who I am. I love Mary and Angie. You know, Heather and I are in a much better place. Brittany, I figured out kind of how she fits into my life. She is my much older kid sister, you know what I mean? And like we just kind of tuck her and her unicorn right there and just figure it out all the time. And so it was easier to have more fun with the women. I think that's something that grows is as my comfortability with them and with the idea of filming my life gets to be, you know, a more base level for me, then I can kind of show a little bit more about who I am, and there is kind of a more fun, silly side of me that we don't always see on the show.
I have been studying for my American citizenship test to become a U.S. citizen.
I'm an acquired taste. I'm learning. There's been so many like introspective blessings all along the way. But yeah, each and every one of us, me maybe top of the list, has a temper, has you know, a neuroses of some kind, and I wear all of mine on my sleeve. So I think my family and friends were kind of like, why would you do this to yourself?
Stand behind the line,
Closer.
It has been so beautiful and so difficult and so funny and so hard. And I say all the time, like, I can't do it again. I can't film again. This isn't in me anymore. And I don't mean that. Of course not. It's been such a blessing to see things that maybe other people don't like in myself and be really clear, I do like that in myself and I'm not gonna change that. Or to see things that other people don't like, the fans or the women that I film with or my family, and think, oh, I do need to change that. Or there is a way for me to do that in a way that works for other people better. When I leave filming, I'm like, I was at work today. You know, like we were dressed as zombies throwing fake, you know, knives at each other on a yacht outside of Canawan. It's ludicrous. It's the dumbest thing, but it has brought me so much joy, and it has brought me friendships. It's brought me a lot of introspection about who I am as a person, what I want in my life, who I want to be in other people's lives. I always joke there's like no nobility in reality TV. You know, I know it's not like highbrow, but there is a lot of like richness about life, like who we are, how we show up, what we look for, what we want. We all fundamentally want the same things, but we go about getting it in different ways. We go about accepting it in different ways, how we handle it when we don't get what we want. It's fascinating. I think everybody knows at this point when you go on Bravo that there is a platform, that there are eyeballs, that people are going to watch the show, and everyone has something different they want. Right now, I don't have a product that I am pushing. I just want to talk about fashion. I just want to talk about the history of it. I just want people to care the way that I do, why a certain celebrity in a press tour for this movie is wearing this color, what she's gonna do next, you know, where those kind of things come from. I have such a deep love for vintage, and so talking about how we care for and sustain and honor the vintage pieces, maybe how we're redoing them, or, you know, the actual pieces themselves. So my Substack is just really that. It's just this love letter to everything, you know, fashion and history, and how everything's curated, whether it's on a red carpet or in a movie or in an actual museum itself, or, you know, downstairs in my basement in a rack. It's just really the things that I care about in fashion. So that's something I'm always working on. Right around when the show my first season filming, so season 5 of Salt Lake, was the first year that I invested in a Broadway show. And we've continued to do that. And it is something that I'm incredibly passionate about. And as I get more comfortable and do more and more shows, putting myself more in a hands-on role, not just investing in the show, but wanting to be part of the costuming or how we, you know, pick the casting, you know, direction and that kind of a thing. I'm also just so excited about where things go from a place of like levity and happiness and maybe like more lighthearted for me this year. I think sometimes you don't realize it until you kind of come out the other side a little bit, but many years of really worrying about my parents, really worrying about what was going on in my marriage, worrying about like launching my daughter into her own person. When you're hands-on, you wonder what they're gonna do as adults and how they're gonna cope. And it's very hard for everything to come to a head at once. But my daughter is an adult and is wonderful, and we have a great relationship, and I'm hopeful, you know, that Todd and I are going to be super supportive and cheer for each other and root for each other and be so proud of each other. And obviously really hard to lose my dad, but my mom is doing so well and we've come so far, her and I just wake up and feel different than I have in the past. And so there's so many wonderful things coming my way, but I think the best thing is maybe that I get to show up in each of those experiences and opportunities and moments as a me that doesn't feel as encumbered by some of the stress and the heaviness that I've been carrying. So now when I'm mean to the women on camera, I really mean that. It's not something I'm going through. I can't use that excuse anymore. Or maybe I'll just be nice to them on camera from now on. Well, you never know. I guess you'll have to watch and see.